Ready, Tim?
Let's do this. Was that Mike? That's Harry. The car stopped for me.
And that's automatic emergency braking.
The Nissan Rogue family. Take on today.
Bottom line, they still can't touch you.
I'll take it.
Get to Nissan, proud supporter of college athletics.
It all begins here. But before these young men can become a legend like Ford, Chancellor,
Hazard gets slaughtered by Chancellor.
or Vic,
Look at that speed! Michael then sprints for his second touchdown.
their dream to become a college football player begins here on signing day.
Hello, Hokies, and welcome to Virginia Tech Exit Light 18. John Laaser alongside Virginia Tech Hall of Famer Mike Burnop. Today, we meet a number of the future Hokies that will be joining Justin Fuente and this Virginia Tech football program. And before we unveil them to you, Mike, let's just talk about how we got to this point. Of course, it's December. It's not February. February signing period still exists, but now an opportunity for a lot of these commits to just put that in writing, make it official, and get on with their lives here in Blacksburg.
Yeah, get it over with. It's for the athletes, it's probably a lot of stress-free because you don't get bombarded with phone calls and emails and texts and tweets about what you're going to do, when you're going to do it. And for the coaches, it's time-saving, it's stress-relieving. I mean, recruiting is a 24/7 business nowadays, and the fact that you can get some of this done in December 20th here helps. The next signing day will be February 7th, but they'll pretty much be done. 80% of the class will probably be in hand, and you can kind of concentrate on that rest of that group and get ready for the next wave of Hokies.
Do want to make it clear that those that are joining us here for our Virginia Tech football Exit Light 18 special, that this doesn't necessarily constitute the entire class of Hokies. These are the commits that Mike just pointed out are ready to make it official, come here. The work will continue through that February signing period, but the vast majority we will highlight for you here today. And Mike, I think the natural starting point is with your on-field leader, your on-field captain, so to speak, and that is at the quarterback position. This is a position that adds intrigue to this football team as we get into the quarterbacks that will be joining the Hokies here in Blacksburg. Quincy Patterson II, Chicago, Illinois, Solorio Academy.
Quincy Patterson, Solorio Academy in Chicago. Really a great story. Parents grew up in Chicago and have lived there and been together for a long time. But he grew up in the Chicago public school system and had a number of opportunities to kind of transfer to private schools and decided to stay right there where he was and kind of took them to a couple of years of really good years. But just a really impressive young man, big kid, can throw, can run, a really intelligent guy, interested in engineering. But just a really well-versed in his technique and fundamentals of throwing the ball. Is going to have to make the transition to, just plays and schemes and reading defenses at the college level. But certainly excited about him and what his upside is.
Ellis, Accokeek, Maryland, McDonough School.
DeJuan Ellis from McDonough High School. He is a kid that we saw when we first got here as a young guy. He was in Northern Virginia, Bishop O'Connell High School. His speed and acceleration jumped off the film at you. Once we got to work him out at camp, saw the way that he also threw the ball. You can't pass up on a guy with that kind of speed and ability to throw the football. But really great family, a competitive kid, kind of a world-class sprinter also. But excited to get him in the system. You know, had some really good last couple of years at McDonough, and just excited to get him in and get him started in the offense and figure out how we're going to be able to use him and get the ball in his hands.
Quincy Patterson and DeJuan Ellis joining this Virginia Tech football program. And Mike, they equally bring different skill sets to the position and different excitement to this program, because we'll start with Quincy Patterson. Represents the Hokies national recruiting scope out of Chicago, Illinois, the Windy City, great town, happened to produce me, and now Quincy Patterson lit it up at the opening finals this summer in Beaverton, Oregon. And really, as his stature rose along with his performance, so did the excitement level about him.
No doubt, and rightfully so, Lays. I mean, you look at him size-wise, he's 6'4", and he weighs about 230. Runs well. He's got a live, active arm. He's physically imposing. He wore number 7, which reminds you a little bit of Michael Vick. But he's a tremendously talented athlete. I thought Brad Cornelson, recognized that, did a great job recruiting him. And it's going to be fun to see the evolution of him, because you look at it's not like the cupboard's real bare here now, so he's going to fit right in. The competition makes everybody better, and I'm really excited to see him get here, get started, and see what he's all about, just because of his natural talent.
Yeah, you look at that quarterback room, and what it might be starting in the spring and then going into the summer and all those things for Brad Cornelson and Justin Fuente, and you just continue to get excited because you have options, which leads us to DeJuan Ellis. We know one thing about this young man from Akokik, and I learned how to say that just for his arrival here in Blacksburg, Mikey. He can fly. He
can fly. Ran like a 4.4. 40, very, very fast kid. He's 5'10", about 180 pounds. Is he going to be a quarterback? They'll give him a first shot there, I'm sure. But that's a guy that could help you in a lot of different spots as a great athlete. And very talented, very live arm, working on his footwork and those sort of things to try to get technically more sound in that position. And just a tremendous athlete. It'll be fun to see him develop as well.
Quincy Patterson, DeJuan Ellis kicking it off here for Virginia Tech football, Exit Light 18. This is not a slow-moving show, nor is recruiting a slow-moving process. Let's get on with it. DBU, who's joining the ranks? We present the Exit Light 18 defensive backs. Shamari Connor, Jacksonville, Florida, Trinity Christian Academy.
Shamari Connor from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm a Florida boy, so really excited about him. Big physical kid, really can run and change directions really well too. His athletic type is probably a lot like Reggie Floyd, who's on our team right now. Big athletic body that we plan on playing safety, but really can cover, really came to camp, ran 4.5. Really, really excited about him, really physical ball player. Real fired up about him.
DJ Crossan, Greensboro, North Carolina, Dudley High School.
DJ Crossan, I tell you, very long, athletic corner, came to camp. That's what's a lot of these kids in this class came and participated in our one-day camps. And DJ came up as a sophomore the summer between his sophomore and junior year, and man, just performed so well. And like I said, he's got length. He's athletic, tall corner, probably in the, the Adonis Alexander mold, because of his height. And yeah, DJ is gonna be a real exciting player for the Hokies. We're excited about DJ, and coming out of the Greensboro area, and 2 hours from Blacksburg, and DJ, he can play. He can help us in kicking, obviously, and he's going to play corner for us. And look forward to him getting here early enrollee too. So he'll get the opportunity to go through spring football, and so I think those kids that come in early really enhance their opportunity to play in next fall.
Nadir Thompson, Elm City, North Carolina, Southern Nash High School.
Nadir, man, I love this kid. Super player, athletic, came over again and participated in camp. And you talk about a guy, man, that could play either side of the ball, return kicks. He's a corner for us, but he's going to return punts. He's going to return kickoffs. He came over and he ran sub 4.4. He was like 4.38 multiple times. Coach Fuente loved him in camp and was committed to NC State at that time. And as we got to know each other, obviously he wanted to be a Hokie, and he has really been a leader within this class of recruiting the kids, and being at the forefront of keeping the class really close together. And Nadir, really strong track athlete as well, and brings a lot of speed, toughness, comes out of Southern Nash. We had Kwame Battle. If you Hokie fans remember, Kwame played here. He's on staff there. And Nadir is, man, he's just an exciting kid. And we've recruited him really hard, and we're excited that he's going to be a Hokie.
Nasir Peoples, Abington, Pennsylvania, Archbishop Wood High School.
First thing that comes to mind when I think of Nasir Peoples is Chuck Clark. Well-rounded young man, rushed for 1,800 yards this year as a tailback. Never left the field. Still, in all situations was a punt returner, very versatile, was a safety for him. They needed him at corner. Did a great job at corner as well. But came to our camp, once again, another young man that we got a chance to evaluate. And the one thing that sticks out is he's a great worker. But he's got super intelligence. A young man like Chuck Clark that could play corner, nickel, free safety for us, could be that general on the back end, making all our calls.
Jermaine Waller, Washington, D.C., the Avalon School.
Jermaine Waller, once again, one of the things that Coach Fuente stressed is let's go see these kids in person. And Jermaine was a kid that was in our camp in Maryland and, just blew me away with his work ethic, his footwork, his overall athleticism. I mean, he ran great in the 40, had great, quick twitch. That lateral quickness was off the chart. But any kid that can come into our camp and be as polished as he was going through my drills has to be impressive. And that kid's a very impressive young man. Very quiet individual, but very confident. I think he's going to be a kid that, because he's coming in mid-year, is going to be a factor next fall.
Jeremy Webb, East Mims, Florida, ASA College, Adlai Stevenson High School.
Jeremy Webb, a cornerback coach's dream. 6'3", 200 pounds, a ton of experience, coming from ASA, probably light years ahead of his time as far as wisdom and knowledge. Just has a quiet confidence about him, but that length is what you're trying to get to each and every year in a recruiting class. And those measurables are off the chart, but yet the best characteristic that he has is he's a great worker.
DBU continues to excel, and Mike, you can tell on the recruiting trail that continues to mean something. There's a standard of excellence established at that position group on the lunch pail defense, and this year's class is going to be no different as you welcome highly heralded Shamari Connor, and then the list goes on. We double to your Peoples with Nasir Peoples coming here, and DJ Crossan really represents a coup for the Hokies that they pulled off, not only in North Carolina, but in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Yeah, he played with Hendon Hooker. I mean, a two-sport star, so he's a great athlete. I think when you look at this class and you think about what Virginia Tech is losing on their defense with the graduation of Stroman and Faison, and then you're not only losing the Whips and Newsome, and obviously Anthony Shagog. I mean, there's some holes to fill in that defense. So this is a big group of kids, and they're going to have a great opportunity to come in and try to play right away. Now, the cupboard, again, is not bare because some guys sat out because you had such great talent at that spot. But these are tremendously talented athletes. They all run well. They've got size and stature. They've got some beef to them as well. A lot of them are two-star athletes, and you can think about it's just a bright, bright future for those guys and see who can rise to the top and keep that DBU, keep it going.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people make the mistake of when you talk about DBU, you think just corners, and no, that's of course the safety. So to maintain that level, you have to bring in so much talent, and Justin Fuente and Bud Foster and this staff have continued to do that. I mentioned 3 of the members that will join this Exit Light 18 class, but Mike, at the same time, this is going to be a position where this recruiting group for Virginia Tech will continue to be active through February, despite what they already bring in here during the early period.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's certainly an area that you can't have enough of those guys, and that will stay active, and you can never get enough of them. So that'll be fun to watch how that develops, but I like what they've got so far. Certainly a lot of talent there, and that's going to be fun to watch them develop.
You mentioned Hendon Hooker throwing the football to DJ Crossan. Actually, they played together. They won a lot of games together. If he throws it to him here, it will be the wrong direction in practice. But as we continue to unveil this Exit Light 18 recruiting and signing class for Justin Fuente and Virginia Tech football, we look at the pass catchers, wide receivers, and tight ends heading to Blacksburg. Trey Turner, Oak Ridge, North Carolina. Northwest Guilford High School.
Trey Turner, probably the best comparison I can say is probably more in the Isaiah Ford family. He is a basketball kid, grew up AAU, probably thought that he'd probably more so have more of a career on the hardwood, and decided to start playing football, and it was just as talented in that aspect too. So kind of got recruited in both, but he's a long, lean guy that can jump out the gym, athletic, great hand-eye coordination, can play the ball really well. Got a chance to go watch him play, got a chance to watch him practice. He's a guy that possibly could have went anywhere in the country but chose Virginia Tech, and he's also been kind of the trailblazer that spearheaded the NC to VT movement, so we're excited to add him to the Hokie family.
Caleb Smith, Bumpus, Virginia, Louisa County High School.
Caleb Smith, 6'3", probably 185, 190. Big athlete, got banged up his senior year a little bit. As a junior, really excited about him. Came to camp, worked out at safety, at corner, and at receiver. So that's kind of telling you what kind of athleticism he has. Really, really fired up about him. He can go up and get the ball high pointed, pretty physical. Banged his shoulder up, should be cleaned up. Everything should be fine, and we're excited about having him.
Daryl Simmons, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, St. Joseph's Prep.
Daryl Simmons, a big athletic kid out east, was a kid that we watched as a sophomore, and then we watched him mature even more as a junior. Was a little nicked up going into his senior season, has been cleared since then, but you know, a gym rat. This year we wanted to go longer, you know, at the receiver position, and he's a guy that adds some length. He's going to come in. He's physically already going to be ready. So I think Coach Hilgart's going to love him in the weight room. But also we needed some of that strength, and we needed a guy that can go out and kind of win some of those 50-50 battles. And he's going to be a guy that, you know, watches a ton of film, has a huge upside, but also has a huge work ethic that's going to add to our room because we need more of that.
James Mitchell, Big Stone Gap, Virginia, Union High School.
Boy, James Mitchell, man, boy, especially as an in-state guy, we've been fired up about him for a long time. I remember when He was the first guy I went and watched when he was a sophomore when we were hired here at Virginia Tech. And unbelievable family, smart, obviously a great athlete, super hoops player also too. I know people looked at him as a basketball guy too, but well, we've really watched his body and how he's grown over the last 2 years. He's getting bigger, but just a really skilled guy. I know for his team this year, he was playing quarterback, returning kicks, playing safety on defense, but did so many great things for that team, and was a ball-playing machine this year. And we're excited about him. I can't wait to be his coach. And it was a long process, and James did a great job taking his time, make sure he saw everything. But I think he always believed he was going to be a Hokie all along. So, but we're very proud to have him. I can't wait to be his coach.
So you look at who might be catching the football next year, Mike, and this is an intriguing mix for the Hokies because Trey Turner, again, one of the players that the Hokies pull out of the Greensboro, North Carolina area, certainly one of the most talented as he comes in and joins this receiving group. You also got to look at the latest tight end. You have a history with that. And there are going to be options aplenty next year, particularly when you couple this group with what you have entering for the first time off transfer, coming back from injury. It's going to be a lot of fun in the spring.
It is going to be a lot of fun. I mean, you look at Trey Turner, he's big. He's 6'2", and he's about 180 right now. And obviously, he'll get into the weight room and get bigger and keep his speed up. Obviously, he's a guy that you look for. He's got great speed. He's a tremendous athlete. He catches the ball very well. And you think about the loss of Cam Phillips. Somebody's got to fill that void. And some of these young guys seemed like last year didn't want to take that other step. So it's going to be wide open for a kid like him to come in and do that. You look at James Mitchell. He's a big kid, 6'2", about 230 already. And he's kind of that Bucky Hodges type mode. He's got great hands. He can block, but he's not afraid to put his hand down the ground. But, yeah, he's a tremendous athlete as well. A lot of these guys, again, two sports stars, so they use their body very, very well. And it's going to be fun to see that competition go and see how it breaks out.
I think this group, more than any other, maybe represents the physical diversity that you're looking for. You touched on it there with Trey Turner, Darrell Simmons, again, out of Pennsylvania, and then Mitchell, who can catch the football but also can be a conventional tight end. It represents that diversity, but then again, the geographical diversity being shown by this staff, going out and finding that talent wherever it may be.
Yeah, and Charlie Wiles, we've got two of those guys. Yeah, they do a great job in that regard. And again, you got to span the globe to get the best players to fit your system, and that's kind of what they've been doing. And again, it's a 24/7 process. I think you got to do a great job of evaluating the talent and see if they fit your system. You think about last year, Coach Fuente kept talking about, we need about 9 wide receivers ideally. And again, you look at how many guys played, and not even half of that many played. So the spots are there to be open. Competition should be great going into spring practice, and it's going to be fun to watch.
When you're talking about 9, that means that you're always on the lookout for more talent at the wide receiver position. Hokies will welcome in Damon Hazelton, who was ineligible after transfer last year, and hopefully get Caleb Farley back at that position. We'll talk about a couple of more as well joining this program. But again, always an active position for this program in their out looking for talent on the perimeter, because that's the way this offense profiles.
That's the way they want to run. I mean, they want to play fast and play a lot of guys, and we see that in the running back spot as well. So, yeah, that's Brad Cornelson. That's their MO. They want to get out there and play fast, have a lot of guys involved, get a lot of guys touches, and the better athletes, the cream is going to rise to the top.
Generally, when you have a position that is veteran-oriented, like linebacker, that's where you turn your attention to try to fill that cupboard and reload. That's what we do as you're dialed into Virginia Tech Football Exit Light 18. Time to take a look at the newest Hokies along the defensive line and in the linebacking corps. Eli Adams, Rock Hill, South Carolina, South Point High School.
Eli Adams, really a dynamic football player, probably a little undersized as far as his height goes, but plays big. Dynamic football player. There's a guy that we had in camp. We evaluated him as a linebacker. He plays with his hand on the ground, but I think that's one of his strengths is getting off on the football. Pass rush, being relentless in his pursuit. We've had a lot of guys, people compared to Corey Moore over the years since Corey Moore, but I don't know if there's one that's closer to Corey Moore. Not to put this guy in this category yet, but he's probably the closest thing I've seen as far as being able to disrupt and create plays and make plays. But really a dynamic, explosive athlete.
Joe Kane, Wake Forest, North Carolina, Heritage High School.
Joe Kane, another North Carolina native from Heritage High School, was a real leader and a big part of their resurgence. A new school, really, and hadn't won a lot of games. And Joe and his senior class, and also they have a strong junior class there, kind of got that thing going. They went undefeated in the regular season, won a couple games in the playoffs. Also, Shrine Bowl kid who went over and performed well there, part of that North Carolina victory. But Joe is exactly exemplifies what our program's all about: hard, smart, and tough. I mean, he's a great student. He's tough. He's going to be an interior player for us, and I look forward to getting Joe over here early as well. He's an early enrollee.
Keyshawn Artis, Chesapeake, Virginia, Oscar Smith High School.
Keyshawn Artis is a very talented player out of the 757 area down in Chesapeake, Virginia. Comes from a very great program at Oscar Smith High School. They've won numerous championships, state championships, and so we know he comes from a winning program. He knows how to win. He knows what it takes to win, which would be good when he gets here. He's also a very instinctive linebacker. Flies to the football, he makes plays, he's on the kickoff team. He just flies to the football, and that's the kind of defenders we want on our defense in the LPB.
It's also here where we point out the fact that this is probably a position group where the Hokies are excited about adding a player, but also are going to be very active in the weeks and months to come.
Yeah, no doubt. And you think about it all, the great play that Andrew Matua-Pawaka had for all those years. So you're replacing him as something, and then the question is, did Bud Foster do his great job recruiting him, Tremaine, to keep him to stay? So there is some talent out there, and they're going to have to continue to try to search and find for those great ones.
One of the constant points of conversation throughout what was a highly successful season for the Hokies was not only the play of their defensive line, but also adding to the depth of that defensive line. And you do that with this incoming class. You add Eli Adams and Joe Kane, much needed talent depth at that position group like the Hokies have a tradition of having.
Boy, then they need it, Lays. You talk about when Coach Fuente came in back in the summer through the spring, he kept thinking about whatever some of our issues, and he talked about depth at wide receiver and depth at defensive line. And you go through the course of the year, and it's hard to get those guys through that year without being hurt. And we saw Vinny Mahuta go down. So, yeah, it is a tough spot. They need more depth there. These guys have talent. They've got some size about them. They're good pass rushers. They're good run stoppers. Some of them have the ability to play inside and outside. So I think it's they're multifaceted, and they're good athletes. Their feet got good feet, and most of them have good, great hands as well. So it's going to be fun to see that competition there, and they need depth there badly. So that's going to be a welcome.
Mikey just led me right to it. Needing depth badly means that you'll continue to work that position group as well. Again, reporting on the early signing period and those Hokies that have chosen to put their name in ink and in writing here and join this program. There will be others that join in the traditional signing period in February as we look to fill out the lunch pail defense, doing so with a glance at who has joined that linebacking core and along the defensive line. Let's keep it rolling. Mikey's favorite phrase is, "Where's the beef?" Harkening back to that famous commercial, here it comes on Virginia Tech football exit light 18. The offensive lineman joining Vance Weiss here with this Hokies program. Walker Culver, Soddy Daisy, Tennessee, Baylor School.
Walker's the offensive tackle from Chattanooga, Tennessee, the Baylor School there. A guy that definitely feels a need for us. He's a guy that comes from a great program. Okay, had to You know, had a lot of suitors, I guess, and but a great kid, great family. Work ethic is the thing that impressed me the most, and just doing the little extra things on film as we were going through the evaluation process. Built a great relationship with him for the last year or so, and very, very excited to have him, join the Hokie Nation.
Christian Darasaw, Upper Marlboro, Maryland, Riverdale Baptist, Fort Union Military Academy.
Christian Darasaw, big athletic O-lineman, was a kid that we kind of pegged coming out of high school. Was a little underdeveloped, had a basketball background. I got a chance to go by the school, saw the kid bend, saw him move around, knew that once he got into some type of program and developed that he could turn into a monster. Ended up spending a semester at Fort Union. We'll get him at the mid-year, and I think that he's going to be an awesome addition to our offensive line.
John Harris, Houston, Georgia, Mill Creek High School.
John Harris, he's an offensive lineman from Mill Creek down in Gwinnett County, Georgia. He's the guy that eats and breathes football. I mean, he is a true old lineman, and just like the rest of these guys, at one time he was a tight end, and so he definitely has the mobility and athleticism that I look for. But he's a guy that could possibly come in here and get in here and have a great summer, and definitely be in the mix with some, possible vacancies due to graduation and whatnot.
Luke Tenuta, Crozet, Virginia, Western Albemarle High School.
Luke Tenuta from Western Albemarle. Okay, he is definitely a guy that I'm very, very excited about. One, he definitely has the size. I think he's somewhere around 6'8.5", 6'9". He's about 275 right now. When I started recruiting him, he was 240. And dual sport guy. He's also, his brother plays in the minor leagues, and Luke also was a baseball pitcher. I was fortunate enough to go watch him throw, and after 2 hit batters, I knew he was a football player. But we're very familiar. His dad is a coach, his brother's a coach here in state, and very familiar with the family. And just watching him develop, he's played every snap his senior year on both sides of the ball, plays with passion, and got a great work ethic. And, definitely it's like Christmas with these guys that we're talking about just coming in here, and can't wait to get here and watch him develop. But he's got a very promising future, and excited, and he chose to be a Hokie.
Mike, the Hokies bring in one of their most impressive groups of offensive linemen really in years, and they're going to have opportunities along that offensive line. Maybe these young guys have that opportunity to fill some of those immediately, but like we were talking about defensive line, you're excited about the depth and the talent collectively that comes in with this group for Vance Weiss.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you look at Darasaw, he's a huge kid. Just a big kid. He spent a year at FUMA, Fort Union Military Academy, just try to get himself bigger and stronger and faster. So I think he's got all the tools to be a great one, and I think that extra year helped him. You look at Luke Tenuta. His father was a defensive coordinator at UVA. Both of his parents went to UVA and graduated from there. I saw Luke in the hoof the other day. I mean, I thought, man, I was like a midget. The guy's 6'7" and weighs about 280. And just think about when he gets in the weight room and puts some more meat on those bones. But they like these guys. They like what they bring to the table. They all have great feet. They've got good hands. They can block well. Some of them can play inside. Some can play outside. So it's going to be a great thing to have that depth there, because you're losing a lot of guys on that offensive line. And so it's going to be important for them to fill that void and have a chance to play right away. And Vance Weiss will give them a shot to play. He uses guys and puts them in different spots so everybody knows their position and everybody knows everybody else's position. You got to be multiple, and he's great at doing that. And I think all these guys fit the void of being a Vance Vice kind of guy.
And John Harris was a guy that Vance Vice lined up very early. Loves his footwork. Yeah. He loves it here in Blacksburg. He was one of the first guys to say, I'm coming to join that group because he really wants to be a Hokie. He now will be a Hokie, as will Walker Culver. Mike, a coup potentially for this team as they get a very talented player again to make it a quartet coming in here early.
Yeah, and both of those guys you mentioned, the Harrison and Culver, they're really big too. And so I think the days of finding these offensive linemen that come in at like over 310, 320 pounds, I think they're over. I think you want to get the guys that are lean and mean and under 300 pounds or right around 300 so you can put good quality weight on them. I always remember that people would say that it's easier to put good weight on than to take bad weight off. And so I think all these guys bring that to the table as well. But they all have got good heights too, which makes it very, very a real plus.
Offensive linemen joining the Hokies again in a sensational class for Vance Vice and company coming here to Blacksburg with some needs to meet going forward as you lose 3 guys off that line potentially. Still waiting for word in some of those situations as well. That a position where you can never have enough size or depth, or as Mike said, speed and agility will continue to be an area the Hokies focus on leading into February as well. Well, as we get closer to the end of unveiling this early signing class of Hokies, which we're calling Virginia Tech football Exit Light 18. Let's take a look at the guys that'll tote the football, the running backs, and also the classification area of athletes. These are guys that the Hokies clearly have an idea where they want to start them out as, but just come in brimming with athletic potential. And also one very special specialist which joins this team. It's going to be the highlight of this show for me, Hokies. Don't take it away from me. Take a look. Caleb Stewart, Jacksonville, Florida, Ed White High School.
Very excited about this young man down from Jacksonville, Florida. He's been coached by a very, very great high school football coach down there, and Coach Sully. And we're very, very happy about Caleb. He gets to come in at the mid-year, which is also an advantage. He'll be able to play with us in spring ball, get those great spring workouts in, or winter workouts in, and we're very, very excited about Caleb because, you know, he's a smart kid, he comes from a great family, and he's got some of that Florida speed to go with him.
Cole Beck, Blacksburg, Virginia, Blacksburg High School.
Cole Beck, really excited, local kid, Blacksburg High School. You know, saw him initially as a sophomore. We knew he was a kid that could really run. His improvement from sophomore to junior season at tailback was a huge step. Came to camp, worked out for us, and did a great job, kind of showing us his ability to compete and change direction. You know, sometimes being a local recruit can help or hurt certain guys. Cole's one of those kind of kids that really helped him because of the type of kid he is, the character that he has, you know, what his coaches say about him, the people in the community that we know that know him, and just a top-notch kid. Excited to get him, utilize his speed and in a number of different ways.
Armani Chapman, Virginia Beach, Virginia, Bishop Sullivan Catholic High School.
Armani comes from a very, very good high school down in Virginia Beach as well. Bishop Sullivan Catholic was coached by the great Chris Scott down there. So he's going to be a kid who knows how to play on both sides of the ball. He's going to play receiver. He also is going to play defensive back. So there's no limit to the things he can do on the football field. He's long, he's rangy. He'll come up and tackle you on defense. He also has very, very good ball skills, and he returns punts and kicks. So he's a threat on both sides of the ball as well as special teams, and we're very, very excited about him. Armani's been a big advocate for our recruiting class and the Exit Light 18. He's always retweeting guys and quote tweeting guys, just doing whatever he can to make sure those guys know that when they come to Virginia Tech, it's going to be a family, and all those guys in the 18 class are going to come in together and make an impact.
Alan Tisdale, Greensboro, North Carolina, Page High School.
Alan's really a dynamic guy. He's very long, very athletic, can play in space. I'm hoping he's going to be that next generation of backer, very similar to Tremaine Edmonds as far as a guy that has great size, great length, can blitz, can run, can play in space, can be a good cover guy. I think really has a chance to be a complete football player, but is very versatile, very athletic, and that fits the mold of that position.
Oscar Shadley, Naples, Florida, Golden Gate High School.
Oscar Shadley, you know, Colton Taylor leaving. Boy, we had to replace his deep snapping position. Right now, Oscar, many people have him rated as the best snapper in the country. He's going to the U.S. Army game as a snapper in that game, so we're excited to watch him in that. That's a great honor. Again, another guy that he came to our camp in Jacksonville when we were down in Florida. Did a great job, and that's when we did offer him. And the thing about him is he's a good athlete too, so he's got a chance to really help us, not just with snapping, but also covering down the field also. But again, another super family. They were just here this past weekend, and spending time with them was great. But we're excited about him and him coming in, taking the reins at that snapping position.
Hokies adding a couple of talented ball carriers to what is becoming a very deep running back room. Caleb Stewart from the state of Florida, Mike, and a guy they didn't have to go nearly as far to get a glimpse at, the human blur, they call him here at Blacksburg High School, Cole Beck, as he comes to join this Hokies program. Somewhat seemed predestined in that case, but you add them to the talented young backs you have on this roster, becomes a position of excitement.
Yeah, and I think when you look at Stewart, I mean, from Jacksonville, he's got a good size to him. He's 5'11", already about 205 pounds, so he's a big, bulky guy, and he runs well, 4.5 40 lays. I mean, he can flat out fly. He's got excellent hands as well, so he's a kid that can help you in multiple positions. And you look at Cole Beck, I mean, I personally saw him play several times because he was right in our backyard here in Blacksburg. Incredible. He's one of the fastest kids in the country, not just in the state of Virginia. He can flat out fly. And he can potentially be a lot of different things for you. A return guy, he could be a wide receiver, punt return, kickoff return, lots of different things. So I like the fact, and not to mention the fact that he wasn't a great running back in high school because he got a bunch of yards. But, yeah, you love the fact that these guys can all run. They all have great speed. And that's the thing. You never know when a kid at that age how he's going to develop and what's going to happen to him in the next year or two. Is he going to get a little bit taller? Is he going to get faster? Will he gain some weight and slow down? You never know. So you kind of put him in that athlete category and you kind of use him where you see fit in this sophisticated offense that they have.
And that's the category also where we find Caleb Smith, wide receiver safety in high school, potentially will be able to help you at those spots, but a lot of talent joining the Hokies from that latest group. And that also applies, I mentioned, a specialist. Oscar Shadley will join this team as a long snapper. He is extremely highly heralded nationally coming in, Mike, but the thing I'm most excited about outside of his ability on the field from a broadcast perspective, Oscar to Oscar.
How about that? Oscar to Oscar Bradburn, the Australian punter. Yes, now all we need is a Cookie Monster, right? We got a couple Oscars. But yeah, he found him down in Naples, Florida, and one of the guys that I played football with here at Virginia Tech. is a guy down there that teaches in a private school. He knew all about Oscar, said, man, that guy was highly recruited. Everybody was after him. Unbelievable talent in what he does. And so, yeah, Coach Fuente found him. They found him on the radar, and they got him signed, sealed, and delivered. He's going to be a real plus because special teams are so important here. It was when Coach Beamer was here, and they've continued that. Spend a lot of time on it, and he'll be certainly a big plus in that regard.
So there you have it, Hokie Nation, the latest additions to this Virginia Tech football team as we present Exit Light 18. Another reminder, though, this is the early signing period. We expect the majority of players that we just revealed to comprise the majority of the signing class, but the Hokies nowhere near done as you do work towards that traditional signing period in February as well. And as we highlighted, there are some position groups they are actively continuing to track, Mike. Not that they're not actively tracking talent across the board, but definitely as you look at it, it's going to be interesting to see who joins as well on top of this group in February.
Well, that's the thing, and it's a never-ending process. And, yeah, you might have 80% of it done, but that next 20% are going to be some highly recruited kids that a lot of people are after. And that's why the decision-making for these kids may be a little bit slow because they're getting more offers and they're loving all the attention that they're getting and they're not ready to let go yet, even though they may have their mind made up. But that's the way it is when kids, they kind of get, they get used to all that pub and it gets a little bit intense, but they make their decision like that. So it's going to be fun and see. And then, of course, obviously, you never know on Virginia Tech's case who's going to leave early. Is Adonis going to stay? Is Tim Settle going to stay? Is Tremaine going to stay? That could fill up and get you some other positions that you need to concentrate more on to try to get more depth at. So a lot left to be done, but a lot of it out of the way here, and I know that takes a lot of pressure, stress off these coaches who have been just busting it since that UVA game, trying to do both, prepare for the Camping World Bowl against a talented Oklahoma State team and spend a little time with their families and recruit as well.
Yeah, we mentioned the positives in terms of the scheduling going forward for the coaches as it pertains to this early signing period. One of the positives as well is we get to present this to you earlier because I know we have a fan base that clamors to know who is going to be on the field for the Hokies, who's going to join this program. But it does throw things into a bit of a scheduling flux, and the dead period started on the 18th, so now the coaches are focused on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. But before Justin Fuente turns his full attention to his present roster and who will take on that Big 12 full, we send Mike Burnop in to talk to him, get a recap of this entire Exit Light 18 early period signing class. We do that straight ahead. This is Virginia Tech football, Exit Light 18.
Ready, Tim?
Let's do this. Was that Mike? That's Harry. The car stopped for me.
And that's automatic emergency braking.
The Nissan Rogue family. Take on today.
Bottom line, they still can't touch you.
I'll take it.
Get to Nissan, proud supporter of college athletics.
Virginia Tech football Exit Light 18 continues. You have learned who has joined this Hokie football program here in the early December signing period. Now let's learn more about them. Mike Burnop has left me outside Justin Fuente's office to head into the head coach's office. We go there now for the thoughts of the head coach on this early signing class. Mikey.
Here with Justin Fuente, Coach. Recruiting now is kind of a 24/7, 365-day process. Kind of give me your overall thoughts on the class you have here in this early signing period.
Well, I couldn't be more excited, quite honestly. It's an accumulation of a lot of hard work. I always get tickled when one of our players announces his commitment and on Twitter, and everybody gets excited. And I often think about, that's been 2 years of work leading into getting that commitment, and then kind of it all comes to a head today on signing day. But there are just so many factors that go into it between our clinics that we do, between our traveling camps that we do, and our camps we do here at Virginia Tech for evaluation, and obviously
us getting out and getting into the schools and developing those relationships. But we really helped our football team today. I don't know what the experts eventually will say, or the alleged experts will eventually say about rankings and all that kind of stuff, but I know we brought some guys in here that are going to help this football program.
Could you kind of talk about what your overall needs were and how you addressed those?
Well, we need a little bit of everything. We have got to continue on the offensive side. We've got to continue to bring in some depth at wide receiver. We just haven't had it since we've been here. Our first year here, we obviously had some very talented wide receivers. We just didn't have the depth to allow us to push the tempo and play the volume of plays that we want. We've still got to do that, and I still think that's going to be another year away. But we certainly took some good steps towards addressing that this year. We tried to add some speed. We really tried to make an emphasis on getting some guys that can run. And then we signed a large number of offensive linemen. We have several seniors graduating that we need to shore up the future there on the offensive line. Defensively, we need a little bit of everything. Obviously, when you play with 5 defensive backs, you need a large number of DBs. And we helped ourselves incredibly there with guys that aren't just good defensive backs, but good players, play on both sides of the ball, all those sorts of things. And then we needed a little bit on the defensive line. It wasn't incredibly heavy defensive line oriented, a little bit more in the back end and linebacker wise.
Just looking at them on paper, it looked like you got size, you got speed, and you got a lot of length.
We did. We helped ourselves in all of those areas. I think the biggest thing too is everybody talks about recruiting and and selling your school and selling your program and your culture, and that's important, absolutely. I mean, that's certainly a part of it, but for me, the most important part is the evaluation. Are we bringing in kids that fit into our program that we believe are going to be here in a couple years and develop into really good football players? And with what we're doing, quite honestly, through Whit Babcock and his help to help us continue to provide for these kids and their development through their time here, that's got to be a factor in our recruiting plan. Is what do we think these guys are going to look like in 2 or 3 years down the road?
Gosh, when you think about the quarterback situation, of course you can never have enough of those guys, but that competition should be fun to watch.
I'm pretty excited about that. It's going to be really fun to watch those guys develop. We got some age finally in the quarterback room, some guys with a little bit of experience, and then we've got some young puppies that are going to be coming in there kind of nipping at those old guys' heels, and it'll be fun to create competition. That's what helps a football team. That's why you want depth at each position, as it creates competition, and in turn lets you play more people on any given day, then in turn makes practice better, which in turn helps you hold guys accountable. So I'm excited about our ability to continue to increase that competition at every spot, but particularly at the quarterback.
And it's always important to get some athletes, guys that you don't know maybe could play several positions.
I've always been a big fan of that. I've always been a big fan of recruiting good football players. I always love when a high school coach puts his best player at quarterback because he wants him to touch the ball every single time. And 2 or 3 years from now, the kid may or may not still be a quarterback, but he's a ball player. He's got some athleticism. He's got some, his high school coach had some trust in him to carry or throw or touch the ball on every down. And bringing those guys in and letting them go compete at different spots, because they're all competitors. They all want to play. So finding the best spot for them is kind of part of the challenge and part of the fun.
When you went all the way down to Naples, Florida to get you a long snapper, what was it about Oscar Shadley that kind of impressed you guys?
Well, he's another kid we had in camp, and I'm a big in-person evaluation guy. And the kids out there across the country that come to our camps know that we're giving them a legitimate evaluation. And those are really, really important to me as the head coach. So first of all, he came to our camp and we watched him snap and watched him move around and really felt like he was a no-brainer. And he was, he's obviously a highly decorated snapper, played in all-star games and been to the Las Vegas snapping competition, and is coming at semester and is literally probably the only guy that's walking into a starting job right as soon as he gets on campus. But we just loved his demeanor, loved his family, and obviously had some talent.
When you look at guys that could potentially leave early, how does that change when you got another couple months to kind of finish up? Do you kind of have to refocus some energies to some of those positions maybe?
Well, it's a little bit difficult. One of the most stressful parts of this job or of any college football coach's job is managing your number. You're not allowed to go over, and you don't really want to be under. Your 85 limit. You'd like to get up to that number, but you're not allowed to go over. But you don't know the future of some of your players. You just don't know what's going to happen, or what they're going to do, or where they're going to go, or how it's all going to fall. So it's a little bit difficult to project those things. So we try and work with a little bit of a cushion in there to help us one way or the other. We try to be as honest as humanly possible with the information with the kids that we're recruiting in terms of who's coming back and who's not and where we're at. But sometimes those things change, and you just got to kind of go with the flow.
I know you mentioned earlier about the fact that this is the first time they've done this. So do you think just initially it's been good for the kids? Is it good for the coaches?
Well, I'm not certain. I don't think anybody really cares if it's good for the coaches or not, and I understand that. But my concern is the kids, and I think it's probably about like any rule. There's a portion of kids out there that it was good for. They knew what they were going to do. That was easy making their decision. They made their decision, and they signed on the early signing day. There's probably another group of kids that weren't quite ready and felt really pressured to either sign or not sign. It'll be interesting to see what happens in this next cycle, because now we all have an idea of where we're at numbers-wise, or we'll have a little bit better idea when recruiting goes live again in January. But I think the underlying theme that I'm most concerned about in recruiting is continuing to push the calendar up. I really believe these young people need more time to make their decision. They need more opportunities as they get older and wiser to evaluate where they're going to go to school. And I feel like every piece of legislation we're passing is moving those things earlier in their lives. And I'm not really in favor of that for their well-being.
What about the fact that obviously from the UVA game, just talk about the challenge it's been for you guys, because it's been nonstop. I mean, you're trying to do bowl prep for a very talented opponent, obviously. You're having recruiting weekends. You're trying to practice on the weekends and get guys in and go visit and home visits. Just talk about the challenge of how that's been for you the last month or so.
Well, certainly it's it's been busy. You have to get to everybody that may or may not sign on midterm signing day. The head coach is only allowed to visit them one time. Well, you have to get to everybody that's going to sign on midterm day. Like, you don't have any choice. Whereas used to be, you could do some of that in January. Well, the cost of that, escalates dramatically, in terms of transportation and getting people around. But it's been fun to get out and see everybody. But also you got to get back and get ready to practice, and then you got a football game to play and all those sorts of things. But that's life at this time of year for a football coach. And you just kind of make the best do you can with it. And then when recruiting finally does go dead, you can kind of take a deep breath, kind of recalibrate a little bit, get ready for the holidays and your bowl game, and then get ready to do it all over again in January.
It's going to be great to see some of these kids come in early, huh?
Absolutely. It's become a huge trend across the country, really. I think just in my short time here, we're averaging 8 or 9 guys coming in at semester, high school kids that graduate a semester early. I've always taken the tact of that's a family decision. I'll be happy to provide them all the information they need on what it's like to stay in high school for another semester and what it's like to leave early. But I don't want to be the one making that decision for them. I want them to make it. And we've got a handful of guys, or more than a handful, I guess, that have come at semester that I'm anxious to get them in the program and get them moving around and lifting and eating and going to school and getting comfortable with how we do things.
Well, that's where Big Ben comes in, right?
Yeah.
He's going to have all those guys a lot.
Really does a fantastic job. Really, I really probably should chart this, but in my estimation, any football player across the country probably spends more time with the strength staff than maybe any other coach on the staff, even position coach or coordinator or head coach, just because of the amount of time through the summer and through the off season that you're in the weight room with him, and he does a fantastic job. It's a lot more than just how much you bench press. It's about creating a culture and a level of accountability in that room, and he does a fantastic job.
Well, Coach, congratulations on that, and obviously get ready. You got about, a week to get ready for the bowl game, so it's going to be fun. At least you got one monkey off your back.
You bet. Check that off the box and move on to the next one.
All right, we'll send it back out to you, Lays.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. And clearly, Hokie Nation, you can tell there's an excitement level brewing with Coach Fuente, despite the fact that his travel schedule, along with the rest of his coaches, has been exhausting. There's really nowhere that they will go and no stone left unturned to try to unveil talent that joins this team. We hope you enjoyed learning who the newest Hokies are as part of the early signing period in December, but that just means more work out in front. We invite you to keep it posted here at Hokiesports.com for news pertaining to that February traditional signing period class, which of course we will have full coverage of when that comes around and this class, Exit Light 18, is complete. But until then, on behalf of Justin Fuente, Mike Burnop, and everyone else who contributed to this special, big shout out to Hokie Vision and the recruiting department for Virginia Tech football. Thanks for being with us, and thanks for being Hokies.
Ready, Tim?
Let's do this. Was that Mike? That's Harry. The car stopped for me.
And that's automatic emergency braking.
The Nissan Rogue family. Take on today.
Bottom line, they still can't touch you.
I'll take it.
Get to Nissan, proud supporter of college athletics.